Welcome to the program. I'm Andrew Wilkow. We are 2 days away from the first presidential debate. And you know, they say in politics, all politics is local. And that is certainly true in Cook County, Illinois, where the rot of the Chicago political machine is now coming to your back pocket. You want me to explain? It doesn't matter if you're not a resident of the state of Illinois. Governor Pat Quinn thinks the federal government should bail out the Illinois State Pension Fund through a purchase of state bonds. For a generation, state and local politicians in many states bought public sector union support by offering or agreeing to totally unsustainable labor contracts that then had to pass off the costs onto the state taxpayer or run to the federal government to fill the budget gaps with pork barrel spending. At least one senator is standing up to put an end to this. Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina spoke out about the severity of the pension deficits last week.
States are fooling a lot of their constituents with accounting methods that would put any business in jail when they report the condition of their pension funds. So what we're trying to do here today is to get out the truth, to help people understand the reality, and to create a sense of urgency with state legislators and governors to deal with this problem immediately so that we don't see over the next few years state after state come into the federal government to get a bailout.
Notice he's speaking to the Illinois Policy Institute about how we don't become Europe. Now, it doesn't matter what level of government we're discussing. If a politician or group of politicians knowingly agree to or create spending plans that will result in the need to push the responsibility to provide the revenue up to the next level of government, then they are forcing non-residents to pay their bills, people outside their jurisdiction. That's called taxation without representation. Once the next layer of government bails out the lower level, the politicians in question are never held accountable because the voters in turn aren't forced to make better choices with their candidates. Then comes state and local or federal and state partner programs, where the blame for the failure is spread over more than one layer of government, making no one to blame directly. Economist Henry Hazlitt wrote in his 1946 masterpiece, Economics in One Lesson, on the subject of taxpayers and their relationship with public spending. And look, to be honest, he did, of course, acknowledge there always needs to be a certain amount of public spending to keep the essentials of government functioning. Now, he wrote about roads and police departments and things like that. Then he said, here we shall have to say that simply all government expenditures must eventually be paid out to the proceeds of taxation, that to put off the evil day merely increases the problem, and that inflation itself is merely a form, and particularly vicious form, of taxation. A certain amount of public spending is necessary to perform essential government functions. A certain amount of public works, of streets and roads, of bridges and tunnels, armories and navy yards, of buildings to house legislatures, police and fire departments, like I said, is necessary to supply essential public services. With such public works necessary for their own sake and defended on that ground alone, I am not here concerned. I am here concerned with public works considered as a means of, quote, providing employment or adding wealth to the community it would otherwise not have had. In other words, spending for spending's sake does not benefit the taxpayer who funds the spending. In the current case, we are living with a system that is shrinking the tax base and expecting far more from the remaining taxpayers. For the state of Illinois, which is under the thumb of the Chicago machine, this is nothing new. 3 years ago, the Illinois State University Annuitants Association, which claims it's, quote, about protecting a strong public pension system and healthcare of benefits, put out a report that showed Illinois was one of nine states in dire financial straits, and that if the federal government propped up Illinois, it would have to guarantee the debt of the other 9 states. Now, breaking from the quote for a second, here's a map of the states that may need the same kind of bailout that Illinois is asking for. The way the game's going to work, and we know how this is going to work, the senators and congressmen from the 9 states are going to collude. They're going to get together and agree to vote for one another. Then they're going to trade votes and favors to get their home states what they need and then seek to buy off the members from the other states. Now, no shock, that California is on that list of states near bankruptcy. With 4 cities filing for bankruptcy, we could see the local origins. In California, the spending rot can be seen here beginning at the local level. In 2007, former San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom, who's now the lieutenant governor, started a local universal health care program called Healthy San Francisco. Just last year, the San Francisco public press celebrated the program, claiming it was a huge success. It was brilliant. It treated more than 100,000 residents in the city. It gave them the same kind of preventive care that private insurance offers. But the San Francisco public press article did say, quote, "But the city's grand plan has not solved the central problem dogging health care across the country. Figuring out who's going to pay for it. A big chunk of the program is covered by the federal government through a $27.4 million annual grant awarded in 2007 for local health care initiatives that expired in July. Without that extra $55.4 million, mostly from federal sources, the program would be hard to sustain," unquote. So the city isn't actually able to raise the necessary revenue to fund the program from within its own tax jurisdiction. On top of that, Governor Jerry Brown signed a new bill to advance private sector retirement. Yeah, private sector. In a nutshell, it forces private sector employers to withhold 3% of their employees' wages and the employees to contribute to private sector fund managers to make their investments. The public taxpayer will have to fund the returns if the private sector investments fail. The concept is to have private sector workers put their pay into this money pool and then have a state administrator run the fund professionally with a guaranteed rate of return. Sounds kind of like Social Security, which is what they were kind of hoping to use this to supplement. Where have I heard this all before? All right, from progressive labor economist Teresa De La Gucci. But I digress. Now, these progressive ideas are just symptoms of the larger problem, a bad economy that's rotten from the ground up. But what do you expect from a president who was once a community organizer in Chicago? Rather than tell these states to fix their own problems, Obama and the Democrats are going to use the federal government as their very own vehicle to be the savior of all problems. Now,